I think humble people are the ones who are open-minded to different ideas. I think the first trend is definitely growth mindset, because humble people always think about improvements, ways to improve. I think the first one is definitely self-doubts. So I would say moments of self-doubt, it's probably number one challenges that humble people may encounter. Hi everyone, I'm Jill Chang. I'm from Taiwan, and I'm the author of You Deserve to Shine. And so even with the first book, Quiet is a Superpower, it comes from one of the biggest challenges for me in my whole life, which is being an introvert. And this second book too, it's also about a really huge difficulty for me to encounter in my career, in my own life, which is like being too humble, sometimes experiencing a lot of self-doubts and being not confident enough. Those are the issues or the topics I want to really try hard to conquer. So I chose to write on those, and I chose to share my own experience in the hope for people to learn from my lessons and to get my lessons learned, and hopefully people can achieve more and learn more when they're younger, so they don't have to go through all the challenges that I had, and they don't have to conquer all the difficulties. They can prepare ahead. That's really my only, the only reason I did that. I think humble people are the ones who are open-minded to different ideas. They tend to listen to others, and then they reflect on themselves before or after making decisions, and they are open for collaborations with the others. They don't put themselves in the center. They always pay attention to the others. Yeah, I think there are some similarities, but also when I did my research and when I interviewed people, I noticed that there are a lot of extroverts who are humble people too. So I would say that these may have some, humble people and quiet people may have some similarities, but not necessarily equal to each other. And for me, even extroverted people, they may have moments of self-doubts. They may have the moments that they don't think they're good enough, or they think they don't deserve everything. So I think from quiet people to humble people, the humble people is more like a general, broader category of people in the world, even in the business setting. So this book, I would like to focus on the ones who may or may not be so quiet, but still they think they're not good enough. Yeah, I think the first trend is definitely growth mindset, because humble people always think about improvements, ways to improve. So I think that definitely the most competitive advantage, especially in the working setting nowadays. And the second is that humble people always listen. And this is especially important in communicating settings where you need to really listen to what people are talking about, and then you communicate, because without listening you cannot communicate. And the third is that they always get prepared, because they think they're not good enough or they are afraid of the risks, they don't want failure. They tend to prepare a lot, even over preparing before taking action or before a certain event. And that actually helped them to obtain success, to achieve the goal with all those preparedness. I think the first one is definitely self-doubts, because humble people, because they reflect a lot on themselves, a lot of times they are more likely to encounter self-doubts because it's always like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I did this wrong. Should I do it that way so it's more powerful, or would it be more helpful if I did that? There are always self-doubts with reflection. So I would say moments of self-doubt, it's probably number one challenges that humble people may encounter. So the second weakness is when there's a goal and you are able to set your goals. Humble people may tend to set conservative goals because they don't want risks, they don't like higher expectations. They tend to set the goal lower so that they can achieve or even exceed that goal. And sometimes this is not always beneficial or helpful in business settings. And the last one is that humble people tend to overwork. They burn out because they always give their 120%, 150% of efforts just to make sure nothing goes wrong. So I would say these three are the three weaknesses that humble people may encounter as challenges. Yeah, what I do is that I actually have three strategies from small to big. So the smallest strategy is really to keep notes, track the things that you did well every day. Like for me, it can be very small things. For example, it's really stupid, but for me, like waking up and going out of the door every day is a success because I'm such an introverted person and I don't like people. But if I go out and I talk to people, that's a success. So I write it down. And for example, if there's my boss says, oh, the temperature of the tea is perfect today. You make good tea. And I would write it down. I make good tea. Yeah, even small things like that, I think we can keep record of it. So moving forward or in the future when there are challenges or when there are difficulties that you are not sure if you can do it or not, you don't have the confidence, you can always look back and say, oh, these are evidences of the things I can do and I can actually do them. These were true, they actually happened. So yeah, this is one of the tricks that I use. And the second one is to establishing the other me, another version of me. The version would be more objective and more calm and more neutral. And when there are difficulties or challenges, that neutral me would talk to me, like we will have an internal conversation. For example, when my self-doubt grows really big, like I am so afraid of failing, or I say to myself, there's no way that I can complete this, I will fail. That neutral me will talk to the self-doubt me saying that, hey, you've done this before. It might be a different challenge, but the nature is the same. You just need to prepare and then go ahead and you will do it. Like having this little internal conversation will help me to get back to who I am, to a neutral situation where I'm not dragging myself down. And the third strategy that I have, which is the most powerful one, is really to have a tribe or a set of partners who can support me when I'm having those vulnerable moments. And for example, I have this like Avengers club of imposters or humble people. These are like, there are 2 or 3 people only, but they are my best friends. They are also humble people, so they know exactly what I'm thinking when I'm having this vulnerable moments. And when the challenge or when the self-doubts become so big that the neutral me is not working, I would reach out to them. And then they will comfort me, they will understand me, and they will support me. And they will say something like, hey, you've done this before, and I've seen that, so I'm pretty sure you can do it. You just need to try. You know, things like that. And sometimes even just one sentence or like a 5-minute conversation will be so helpful because that person is something you can rely on, someone you can trust. And with that level of trust and with that level of support, that really brings a lot of power. So yeah, that's what I use when I'm feeling really, really stressed or really, really doubting myself. I would definitely reach out to my partners. I think the situation is equally challenging because we don't like people to take away our credits or to criticize on ourselves, especially, I think this is especially difficult for introverts because introverts don't always market ourselves good enough. Like we don't say, hey, I did this, and we don't take the credits often enough. So a lot of times it's more like the credits are being taken by the louder people or the more assertive people instead of quiet people or humble people. What I do is that, one, I find ways to show my credits, show what I've done. For example, if the people are very loud, claiming their credits in the meeting room, and I don't want to do that, maybe I can do so on a one-on-one setting with my boss, saying that, oh, I recognize what was discussed in the meeting room, but at the same time, these are what I did, and these are the evidence. So these are my credits, things like that. This is the first strategy. And the second strategy is one, I learned it from one of my friends, is to always speak first in the meeting room. No matter what your ideas are, no matter how bad or how unprepared you are, just be the first to raise your hand. Because when you are the first, people see you. They don't always, this is from my personal experience too, they don't always evaluate you on how prepared you are or how good your speech or idea is, but they always evaluate you on being the first person to speak in the conference room. So my recommendation is really to be the first one to speak, especially in the meeting setting. And I also like to share some sentences of facing like very loud people, because a lot of people, they talk a lot, but those don't always make sense, right? So the sentence I usually use is that, why don't we step back a little bit? And what is the purpose of this conversation? Because a lot of times I notice that loud people, they say as they think and they think as they say. So a lot of times the conversation would go wrong into different directions. And it's always helpful to have someone who's quieter or more humble to step back a little bit or to see the whole picture and then pull the conversation or discussion back to main purpose of what we want to solve or what problem we're facing here. So this is one of the strategies that I would like to recommend humble people to use. You can always say, let's step back a little bit, and then that shows that you are the calm and wise person in the room. I think for loud managers or loud bosses, what I do is that I evaluate the situation. I think with that, because bosses don't like surprises and bosses don't like losing control of everything. And for loud subordinates, it's challenging. I've personally encountered those too, and I think that's not necessarily a bad thing.